This episode is brought to you by Zencastr. Zencastr is the #1 tool for all podcasters. You can record high-fidelity audio between remote locations and get studio-quality sound. Go to Zencastr.com and use coupon code THATENTERTAINS for 20% off for 3 months or 20% off an annual plan.
This is a That's Entertainment podcast.
Awesome.
Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome.
That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No, you're awesome.
No, you are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. And oh boy, the week of awesome that I was planning got off to a rough start. I was planning on posting a bunch of episodes between January 7th of 2019 and January 11th of 2019 to partially help catch up on episodes that we missed on posting at the end of 2018, and also to help promote the festival coming up on January 27th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You can go to festival.awesomepodcast.com for more details on that, or bit.ly/headstrongfest, bit.ly/headstrongfest to help donate to our $500 goal for the Headstrong Foundation, which is an organization that helps families affected by cancer by offering financial, residential, and emotional support. And they mean a great deal. But anyway, I was trying to post an episode or two every day of this week, and it was going to be because we had a lot of episodes that were a mix of featuring a guest and some that were a little bit more special oriented, that were just more whimsical than anything else. And we missed out on posting some days this week, specifically on the 8th and 9th, and maybe even the 10th, depending on how today rolls. But on the 8th, my daughter was sick, and I stayed home, worked remotely to help her just so that she could stay home and so she could sleep and relax and whatnot. And we had to go to the doctors and stuff, and I also had to do my normal day-to-day job. So things were running much slower than I wanted to. I didn't get a chance to look at any of the stuff that I had to edit and whatnot. So here we are. We're still in a good position to get some episodes out there to you. I'm hoping that today you're going to listen to this one, obviously, which is my conversation with Joe, Mr. Nite Owl himself. He is an artist who I think now is in Arizona, but was it Arizona? We mentioned it in the beginning of the show where he's moving to, but he was out in Philadelphia for a while, and in this conversation we sit down and we chat about his art, obviously, but we also talk about the Eagles, and this was like right at the start of the season. So we actually recorded this interview back in September. So the start of the football season. It was also right when all the shows for the CW were starting. So we talk a lot about that. We get into shipping and how that could be toxic in the fandom of all these different shows and whatnot. We also talk Marvel Cinematic Universe. We talk the DC Extended Universe. I kid you not, there's a quote, I won't tell you from who, but I'm sure you can guess who, that in this episode you'll hear this word-for-word quote: "Man of Steel is a modern-day masterpiece." That is a quote from this episode. I think if you guys know me, you know who said this. And then we also discuss the problems with the DCEU and go into many, many more things. So please take away from this intro a couple things. Check out Nite Owl Joe. All his stuff will be in the show notes because I am a bad producer and didn't pre-look up his plugs. But check out him on Twitter and whatnot. You can also check out the Everything is Awesome HEADstrong Comedy Festival, January 27th from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. across 4 different venues. Tattooed Mom, South Street Cinema, and Milk Boy on South Street. All 3 of those venues are on South Street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and our 4th venue, Thirsty Dice, is at 17th and Fairmont, only a 15-minute Uber away, or Lyft, whoever you want to use. And all 4 venues are featuring over it's 24 podcasts and over 20 comedians and improvisers getting together to share their craft in our goal of raising some money for the HEADstrong Foundation. Our goal is $500. At the time of this recording, we're sitting at, I think, $229, 45% of our goal. I would love to hit 50% by January 16th. That's my son's birthday. That's the only kind of reason why I picked that. It also happens to be like kind of the halfway mark in between when we started the fundraiser and when our festival is. So I would love to hit 50%, which is only a couple more bucks by then. My ultimate goal is to be fully raised of $500 by the time the festival starts. That way, anything else we raise at the festival is extreme gravy. It's just doing more to even help the HEADstrong Foundation. So check out more information about the festival at festival.awesomepodcast.com. And of course, if you cannot make it to Philadelphia or to any of our venues, you can also donate today by going to bit.ly/headstrongfest, bit.ly/headstrongfest. You'll hear from me on the other end of this awesome episode right here with Mr. Nite Owl Joe himself on awesomepodcast.com and, of course, thatentertains.com/network.
Someone, I don't even know if it was someone that followed like a mutual friend of ours on Twitter. Someone just randomly, the way the Twitter feed works now, it's like, if you like something, that's the same as retweeting it almost, because it advertises it. So the Captain Marvel is what brought this interview together, and it was. I don't know, because I live in kind of the same world that I guess I'm going to assume live in the sense of like, well, who cares? Like, there's 2 different Captain Marvels.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, definitely. That's exactly how I feel, honestly.
Like it's I don't know if see, I have this so am I reading your Twitter correct? You're in the Philly area as well?
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool. So for those listening, I mean, you have to know by now that I'm in the Philly area with all the Eagles talk we've done in the past and all the live shows that we do. But so we're recording this at like almost 1 o'clock in the morning. And I think there was another point I was trying to make about us both being from Philly. But I think the most important point is that we're still defending champions in the football world. And it's almost 1 a.m. Do you, now, are you, it's weird because I usually have a mixed, when I talk to people who are into the same things of like the geek culture that I am, it's very hit or miss when it comes to football. If I'm like, hey, let's talk about the Eagles, and they're like, do you follow the Birds? Mm-hmm.
I don't, but when they win, I take notice. There's a sense of pride. It's like, that's the team where I live. So whenever somebody sits down to chat about it, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm proud. That's the Eagles. And
that's how I am with I definitely basketball, because I could care less about basketball. Right. But and same thing, like hockey, I actually enjoy. It's just I know nothing about it because it's something I got into in the last like decade. And then baseball, I mean, who doesn't know baseball? Like I feel like you're born knowing how to play baseball. Maybe not how to play well, but you know the rules. Like it's hard to mess that up.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, it's. Now, are you in the city proper, or do you live, without giving the exact location, like, are you more of a burbs person?
No, I live in the city proper.
Okay, yeah, I'm actually in Bucks County. So I'm about 40 minutes northeast of like Center City and stuff. But I don't get to go down to the city very often, save for when I do a live show, or if I go, like, I'll be down there this weekend for Comic-Con, Keystone Comic-Con. Are you, so as a artist, are you going to be at Keystone Comic-Con?
I wish, but unfortunately, the sad fact of the matter is I'm only going to be in Philly for the next 2 months.
Oh, okay.
After that, I'm actually moving to the Midwest.
Oh, so are you originally from Philly?
My mom's originally from Philly.
Okay.
But I am not. I was born in Nebraska, of all places.
Oh, okay. So, wow. So what made you come back to Philly?
Family reasons.
Okay.
All my mom's extended family's out here.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's been pretty cool.
And what's is work or is it also family sending you back out to Midwest?
Family. My dad's side of the family.
Okay.
Things happen. Last year was a year filled with tragedy for us personally, and finances and all this terrible stuff. So this is a big reset for us personally.
Oh, okay.
Big second chance. So.
Well, first of all, best of luck to that. But how long have you been back in Philly?
A few years now.
Okay.
Actually.
So you were here pre Super Bowl win. And obviously post. So since I'm not in the city proper, like I kind of still know, like even in the suburbs, the greater Philadelphia area, if you're an Eagles fan, I feel like it's, you have that same sensibility almost no matter where you're at. So I think I kind of know how it was in the city. But prior to the city, I feel like there was like, just general, like, I guess every kind of city, Philadelphia, just like lack of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like lack of like person. I don't know. Like people weren't real friendly with one another. Right. Like not actively hating on each other, but like, if you walked past somebody and they were wearing an Eagles hat, it was kind of, you look down in shame. But I feel like since the Super Bowl win, we're still riding that high, and it's still like everyone's super friendly with one another. Like I think it changed the city.
I'd go with that, honestly. Like I haven't seen it myself, like these specific incidents, but like I know that a bunch of people closed off this one area, this street actually, and they had a replay of the Super Bowl playing on one of the billboards.
That's amazing.
And somebody projected. Yeah, it was awesome. I was reading all this stuff. And I was like, wow.
And as I'm assuming you didn't watch the game on Thursday night.
No.
But what I think is one of the most Philly things ever, and I still don't think it's changed, especially since we came out the win. But I still think we still have that sense of we're the champions, kind of, and like it doesn't, like, even if we don't win the championship this year, like we can still say like we got one. Like it still, I think, brings us together. But the most Philly thing ever, and then we'll move on to you and Art and more geeky stuff, I promise. But it was what is, I mean, I guess it's actually like probably more than an hour, like probably more of like an hour or so of game time. But after 2 quarters of football, the Philadelphia fans booing the Philadelphia Eagles off the field there's nothing more Philly than that. And like, that made me, I smiled like, okay, I love this respect, like this disrespect that Philadelphia fans have. And at the same time, I'm like, come on, guys, like, we're still the Super Bowl champions. We can't be booing our team 30 minutes after, like 30 minutes of game time after we won the Super Bowl.
Oh, definitely. That was pretty funny.
What guy? So I'm just assuming you're an artist. Do you do that for fun, or is that still like a passion of yours that you're trying to create into something as a profession? Or is it a profession?
Both actually. It's definitely something I'm trying to, but I've never like put my full weight behind it because it was never something that I felt like I should make into a career. It was always more of a hobby, like a way for me to just unwind. But people are like, "You're so good," and I've made money off of it. So I'm like, you know what? I'd rather do this than the 9 to 5 grind. If I can make a ton of money off of this, why the hell not?
Yeah, I mean, and I think me like looking into like once I saw so the piece that brought this interview together, I guess we alluded to like the Captain Marvel
Right.
is you ran across some toxic fandom about like the Marvel Captain Marvel versus DC's Captain Marvel, which is Shazam.
If I could take this moment really quick, I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
the guy I was actually quoting was making a joke about the same thing. And I kind of pointed it out like he was one of the bad guys, and that backfired in a big way. So I'd like to go on record and say that Q Reviews is not a toxic guy, but him and I both agree that there are tons of toxic people out there about this. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, and we can go on toxic fandom for for a majority of the show if we wanted to, and it's weird because I guess fandom has always been around. Even I'm 34, so I don't know where that puts us in if like what is how old are you if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 24.
24. So we're almost probably a generation apart. Or I guess most people would say we're both millennials, but I do not feel like a millennial. No offense to millennials out there, but I would say we're almost a generation apart with that 10-year gap.
Mm-hmm.
So when I like coming up as a kid in the late 80s, early 90s, to me, it didn't feel like there was much fandoms around because it was all close knit, really tight, really close knit, and you didn't have a way to find more people because the internet was just kind of coming up in the 90s, and you know, like it today, and you probably feel more of the lack of that geekdom, I guess, in high school, like I did, because I feel like today's kids don't feel that much, but. Like I don't know how it was for you in high school, but like if people found out I watched wrestling or if I liked like comic books or anything, like it was not good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't really participate in any kind of online fan culture until about 2008, but you got to think kids born in 2000 are now 18 years old, you know? So high schoolers nowadays, they've grown up with fucking Twitter and Tumblr and stuff.
Yeah.
Like me, we didn't even have internet in my house till I was like 14, you know? So like when I was in grade school going into junior high, I was still watching Power Rangers, honestly. And if anybody found out, they gave me so much shit for it. It was unbelievable. Nowadays,
there was a weird,
it's crazy.
There was a weird window for me when Power Rangers was acceptable, like to everybody, and this is like always my equation is like for me and like I said for I think your generation as well, like there's and I'm probably using the term generation wrong, but for your age group, my age group, like it was not good to like that kind of stuff, but like today's kids, they can have a commercial on TV that shows a kid asking a girl out on a date with an R2D2 unit, asking like that's not something that happened when we were when I was a teenager, at least. So like it's geek culture is way more accepted. Wrestling, I think, is way more accepted now. Like everything is more accepted. And I think the internet has something to do with that. But like, I never really like got the whole fandom thing because I never really felt like I was part of one, which I guess I've always have been like, you know, I love Star Wars and I love, or at least I at one point loved wrestling. And so I guess it was just much smaller scale. So there was no toxicity to it. But it is like my first experience with like toxic fandom was are you familiar with the show Once Upon a Wine?
Yes.
Okay, like that fandom is crazy. Like it's sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way.
Oh yeah.
It's like I'm not a shipper. Like I don't like that thing, like that terminology. Like when everyone's like, who's your favorite ship? I'm like, I don't do that, guys. Like I watch the show to watch. I really like the Flash is one of my favorite shows. Like
oh yes,
probably top 3 show for me. And that was the first show that I was like, oh man, I don't want Barry and Iris to get together. I want Barry and Caitlin to get together. Like that's the first show. I was like, I have a ship. Like I finally am there.
I was in that same boat, to be honest. I was really fighting Barry and Caitlin, to be honest.
Yeah, like, what was there? They were Snowberry.
I think so. I don't think I ever bothered to look up the term, but yeah, there was always this weird moment where I was like, "Oh my god, I have a ship, don't I? I guess I do." Yeah.
Yeah, well, and like I haven't seen it so much with Flash. I see similar, not as bad, but similar toxicity with Supergirl when it comes to, and I think it all boils down to the shipping. Is when I say this in TV terms, at least when it comes to TV fandoms, it seems like, at least what I've experienced, it comes down to like shipping, and when you break that down into like a straight couple or a homosexual couple, like those two factions can't get along at all, and it blows my mind that, like, listen, like what they're obviously, like, TV isn't necessarily where it should be as far as like representing people of every. Yeah. So obviously you're going to see more heterosexual relationships, and like no one ever, like there was the war between the Swan Queens and the Captain Swan or whatever it was. Once upon a time rather. And it like, one of my friends who lives out west, who's an actor, and they did a they did a parody of Once Upon a Time, and they were kind of known in the fandom and whatnot. He made a joke about the team Swan or whatever, and team Captain Swan, Swan Queen and Captain Swan, and I retweeted it and said something, and like it like I got attacked on the internet. I was probably like 31 or 32 at the time. I'm like, I'm getting attacked in my 30s from what I assume is a bunch of 20-year-olds about, like, because they think I hate a lesbian couple. And I'm like, guys, it was a joke. Maybe it was a poorly tasted joke, but like I wasn't even like derogatory or any, like it was just like me saying I was more pro Captain Swan. So it's that kind of stuff that, like, I think you see I think at the end of the day, I say more fun than anything, but I'm sure the people that are that identify as queer probably don't take it as fun, and maybe that's probably the way I should look at it, and not because I'm just a cis white dude. So like, same. I can't come from the angles that they come from. So I can now, I guess, 2 years removed from it, understand why they got so mad. But it still blows my mind that there's the team A has to bash team B and vice versa. Like there's just no respect between the two things.
The absolute flashpoint for it, and for the piece that I drew, was the Marvel versus DC debate. Like, it's happened with comics, it's happened with animation, with TV shows, and now it's happening with their universes. And I don't get it. Like, growing up, my dad was really into comics, and he got me into comics, obviously. Like, I didn't even fathom that I had to choose a freaking side. I had Superman comics and X-Men comics. It was all comics, And now there's people out here drawing lines in the sand, like MCU fanboys and DCEU fanboys. I'm like, guys, it's all comic book movies. Let's just enjoy all of it,
And I don't know, because there's really no face of the DCEU. So it's hard to see where they kind of stand. Right. But in the Marvel side of things, even Kevin, and I always pronounce his last name wrong, Feige, we'll say. But the other Kev is his he said it's good for business. Like he's gone on record saying he wants DC movies to succeed because a bad comic book movie, the movie going audience, while there's a lot of comic book nerds who are going, and they're going because it's Marvel, they're making billions of dollars because everyday people are going. So when my mom and dad go see Iron Man, they don't know that he doesn't hang out with Batman at all. So,
Right.
you know, so if a comic book movie does poorly, it looks bad for the whole industry.
Yeah, it reflects on the entire genre of film.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and then the studios think, oh well, they don't want any more comic book movies, so we should stop throwing money at them. You know?
Yeah, yeah. And actually, to a degree, I think they should stop throwing money at them anyway. You know, I think you can't with Marvel. I think the way that what Marvel is doing is working. It's successful. It's a little maybe cookie cutter at times, but it's working, and I enjoy everything that they put out. Like there's now I can't. The only Marvel movie in the what's considered MCU canon that I look at that I'm not a big fan of is there's two. There's the Incredible Hulk, and Thor: Dark World, and I'll still watch them. Like I'll watch I don't watch them as frequently. Like I've seen almost every other movie at least 5 times. Those ones I've probably only seen 2 or 3 times at most. But other than that, like they're usually enjoyable for me. Whereas DCEU, which I count as it's weird because a lot of people like go back to Nolan, Christopher Nolan's stuff when they talk DCEU, and I'm like, guys, I feel like Man of Steel is where like Man of Steel forward is what we're talking about here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, so those movies, like I don't know what it is, you know, aside from it being, I guess, too gritty maybe.
I actually have a really interesting, stance about this. I don't think, like personally, I feel like Man of Steel's kind of a modern day masterpiece, but the problem with every, hear me out here. Like, think about it. Okay. Superman's origin has been told so many freaking times over and over and over and over. And Zack Snyder made it about something. He made it about choice, about the freedom to choose your own future. And he retold Superman's origin story from the ground up and gave him relevance, you know? And Michael Shannon as Zod was absolutely fantastic, you know?
Yeah, so go ahead.
Every other DC movie has had a problem with their villain. Their villains are boring. Even Wonder Woman, which I really enjoy, boring villain. Suicide Squad, Joker should have been the main villain. What the heck was with what's her face? Like, what was that? Like, I don't know. Justice League, its villain was an insult to CGI monsters. Like, what is that? I don't know what that is. Like, I love the heroes, like they're fun to watch, but the villains are such a non-entity in these movies that it really shows where Marvel's succeeding, and that's the villains.
Well, it's funny because I think there's a lot of people that would say like the Marvel villains are not great, and I can kind of agree. Like, to me, that's like for Marvel, what makes a Marvel movie good is it's fun. Even like Thor Dark World, not so much, but like the original Thor is not as fun as Thor Ragnarok, but it's still a fun movie. Like, that they feel like a comic book brought to life. They literally take me out of the world for 2 hours, and I don't have to think about, especially in a post 2016 world. Like, I don't have to think about like the shit that goes on right now. Right. But I want to say, like, there's many villains that I look back at when it comes to the MCU, especially at this point after 19 movies or 20 movies or whatever it is. Like, there's only a handful of villains that stand out, and some of them come from the Netflix world. Like, Kilgrave to me is one of the best villains Marvel has had, and it's a shame that it's on Netflix and not, obviously a lot of people saw it, but not as many people that go to the MCU movies.
Definitely. And I actually agree. I mean, Marvel's getting by with a lot of their like second tier villains. It's a baseline, quality that's passable. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy villain, I forget his name. Ronan. He was okay, but they have personality. Like, even if they're not fantastic villains, they have personality. I don't feel like any of the DCU villains, apart from Zod, even have that. Like, they're placeholders,
And I will say, like, when it comes to Man of Steel, calling it a modern day masterpiece is really, and I'm not a film guy, but that's really hard for me to swallow. And whenever I bring up this argument, a lot of people say, well, you're afraid of change. And I'm like, nah, like literally you can change. Like there's been a lot of change when it comes to Marvel movies, and I'm okay with everything they've done.
Yeah.
But to me, like, what makes Superman is how he was raised. Like part of what makes Superman him is his parents, specifically Pa Kent. And that whole relationship did not, like, that new origin point for that relationship, I don't think translated well for me, at least. The Superman that I would have seen, I would have preferred, wouldn't have snapped Zod's neck. Spoiler alert. You know, there's just a lot about that Superman that I'm not a huge fan of. That doesn't take away from the fact that I do agree that there was some great performances, and I don't fault, like, Cavill. I think he's actually a good Superman.
Yeah.
I have other people that I prefer as Superman, but he's not bad, and I would like to see him given a sequel to Man of Steel with something that falls more in line with more of the Boy Scout that we kind of all know. I think Superman, while there's a lot of heroes you can kind of twist their character and twist how they work in film, Superman is the Boy Scout, and it's for him to be anything but that. Is a hard pill to swallow, unless you build to that. Like there's like storylines that I think that you like I think there was a rumor that they were going to do an Injustice storyline at some point.
Yeah.
And I think that works, but you got to build to that. You got to build to a Superman who's like, and I don't know Injustice all that well, but you got to start with the Boy Scout and get there, in my opinion. So that's why Man of Steel didn't work. Batman versus Superman, that was a film that I should have been running to the theater to see, but the trailers did a poor job selling it. I finally did watch it sick on the couch one day on HBO, and I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it.
Yeah, same.
And to me, like, the best part of that movie was Batfleck. Like, but I guess the point of this tangent that we're on is I think DC is fine. I think they found their footing. I think Wonder Woman was fantastic. I think where Wonder Woman falls apart is the final battle with the villain, which is where a lot of comic book movies fall apart, because it's a lot of CGI and stuff.
Right.
I didn't hate Justice League. It wasn't bad, or it wasn't good, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, like I think I like Justice League more than Batman v Superman, and there's one guy who's probably going to listen to this who'd want to have my neck for that. But I think Justice League is primarily as enjoyable as it is because of the heroes. They're so much fun to watch, you know? And I mean, it's almost like an afterthought that, oh yeah, hey, there's a bad guy out there somewhere, but can we get more Flash, please? That's what I want.
Well, okay, so two things on Justice League. I would say that it is, I think, I don't know that this is the right way to word it. I think maybe Batman versus Superman had the better story. Which is hard to say because what was the story? but I don't think Justice League had a really good story. That was more of that felt more like a Marvel movie in the sense of it took me out of the world for a couple of minutes and it felt like a comic book movie. Like it felt like a comic book brought to life. And that's what I'm looking for basically at the end of the day. And like, I can't tell you anything about Justice League at all. Like I saw the movie in theaters. I can't tell you anything about it. Aside from the fact that, and this is my second point, my big issue, my personal issue with DC is that they don't combine the worlds of TV with their film universe, and even their TV worlds aren't really meshed together. And I know that's complicated because even Marvel kind of gave up on that. Yeah. But when you have a perfectly good Flash and Grant Gustin, I don't know why you cast anybody else as the Flash, as Barry Allen. And Zack Snyder's excuse was, we're going a different direction. But I don't know about you. Ezra Miller did a great job. as Flash, but the Flash he portrayed felt very similar to Grant Gustin's Flash. No.
I think he was a bit more neurotic. Barry Allen never really had trouble relating to people as a person. Like he always like seemed to have a lot of friends. In the police force and whatever. And the Ezra Miller Flash just seemed very off. Like he might even be on the spectrum. Like he's just very weird.
I will give you that. Yes. Now that you say that, I kind of in hindsight see that. I guess my point was like Zack Snyder made it sound like we're not going in the direction of Grant's Flash because that's more comical. That's more comedy, which there's a lot of drama that Grant does. Like, I mean, that show brings me to tears on a regular basis.
Same.
But there was comedy, like Ezra Miller's Flash was all comedy based. Like
Definitely.
I feel like Grant could have done it, and I don't know that you would have lost anything if you lost that on the Spectrum feel. Like if you brought in, and this is saying that assuming that they're going to bring in Grant Gustin as the Flash that's been established on TV, and I think that brings in a whole new, like, I think it makes your audience bigger because I'll tell you what, DC, your audience isn't that happy with your movie front. They're real happy with your CW Berlanti-verse. Like Berlanti should be DC's Kevin Feige. He should be in charge.
Yeah, I can see that. I can readily see that, And I think it's just, I think it comes from this standpoint where they're not afraid to play around on TV because the stakes are much lower. There's always been, capes on TV, even back in like, the 60s and 70s with Captain Marvel. Isis is in the comic book character Isis, not the, terrorist. And, the 60s Batman show. So there's always been like this lighthearted nature to a lot of the TV stuff. They did Arrow, and Arrow found its audience really quick. And then they're like, hey, let's do the Flash. Because, the Flash also had an audience in the 90s with its show back then. And that took off like, immediately, and they found their footing with a lot of the lighter material. And so they're like, let's just do everything we possibly can with these shows. Like throw everything at the wall and what sticks, and fans have been loving it.
Yeah. And whereas Arrow has gone down in quality because Arrow, I think it succeeded in a world where we were expecting Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. We were expecting a darker, grittier, real world tale on these heroes. And that's why I loved Arrow in the beginning. And then I think as you introduced Flash, they tried to intermix some of that more lighthearted feeling to Arrow. And I think the current, I guess the current season hasn't started yet, but I think season 6 was a strong like course correction in season. What was season 5 the season everyone hated because Felicity or whatever that ship is called with Oliver and Felicity.
I'll be honest, I haven't actually watched Arrow. That's the one CW show I haven't started yet. I was a late adopter. I came on. No, wait, that and Legends of Tomorrow. I watched Supergirl. I watched The Flash. Arrow is like the main one. And I've seen a lot of Legends of Tomorrow, but I'm not religious on that. I'm a late adopter, like Arrow came. Oh yeah, Green Arrow. Okay, yeah, whatever. The Flash. Okay, here I am. Yeah.
Well, and I want to say I started watching Arrow. I think it was either. It was before Barry Allen debuted. So whatever season that was, I guess that was season 3 he debuted maybe. But I know I binged season 1 at least on Netflix.
Right.
Because they announced that they were going to do this TV universe thing and that the Flash was going to debut on Arrow and then spin off into his own show. And so that's the only reason I started watching all this because I was like, "There's no way it's going to be good as Smallville," and it's better. It's better than Smallville. I was like, "It's not going to be that good." It says you can't top Tom Welling.
Yeah,
and they showed me, but I do. Like, I mean, I still watch them all. I wouldn't even say religiously. Like I don't watch them live. I usually watch them the next day on demand or something. But Arrow is the one that like is the first show every year that like falls off. Usually after the big crossover, that usually falls off, followed by Legends of Tomorrow, and then I try to keep up with Flash and Supergirl because to me they're the top tier. Like those two shows are the same, really. Like it's they're really special shows. I think like they're really good.
I seriously adore Supergirl. I didn't think it was going to be for me at first because I don't know, just the trailers didn't sell me on it. The look of the show didn't sell me on it. I thought they were trying to capitalize on a market that just definitely didn't include me. And I should have known better because I love this stuff, and I don't know why I didn't think it at first. So I was also late to it must have had like 2 seasons or already passed and completed before I tuned in. And my friend's like, stop being a bonehead, watch this show.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, Sam, all right, I'll do it.
Were you already watching Flash at the time?
Oh yeah, I loved Flash.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the selling point on if you're a fan of the Flash, you're instantly a fan of Supergirl. Supergirl season 1, it takes a few episodes. I want to say 3 to 4 episodes for it to really find its footing.
Yeah, definitely.
And then from there, I want to say season 2 is where it really starts, because now it's in the CW, it's in Vancouver. It really starts to feel a lot like the Flash, and I assume they still follow it after Kreisberg's left, but the way the Flash was made was we got to follow the 3 H's: heart, heroism, and humor, or the 3 H's that they had to follow. You had to have not necessarily equal parts. You had to have all 3 parts represented, and kind of sometimes sometimes heart would be the biggest one that you show in that episode. Sometimes it would be humor. Sometimes it would be heroics. But all 3 had to be present in the episode. And I feel like Supergirl does that. They do a similar approach where they have all 3 of those aspects in their show. And because Arrow, I want to say season 6, so the season that just passed of Arrow, was the first season that I teared up during Arrow. It was everything between Oliver and no, not Felicity. There may have been some moments that were kind of like, at least like melted my heart, but Laurel's dad, Captain Lance, Quentin.
Right.
There especially at like the end of the season. I'm not going to spoil it, like, because you can catch up on Netflix now before it starts. But so I won't spoil anything for anyone that needs to catch up. But there's a scene between those 2 several times, I think, near the back half of the season. That's just it like made me tear up a few times. But that happens since season 1 in The Flash, and at least in season 2 of Supergirl, if not season 1.
Oh yeah.
Legends Tomorrow is just more of a fun ride. Like
it's definitely just like big flashy colors, big set pieces, and a lot of elbow ribbing, which is fun. It definitely is fun. But like you said, The Flash and Supergirl, they really hit you in the feels.
Yeah. I mean, it's and I want to say Flash does it more. Though Supergirl has, I want to say like whatever, I guess season 3 Supergirl just passed. Like that season had a lot of feels in it, especially with not necessarily with Kara, but with Alex. There was a lot of like feels with Alex, with Jean and his dad. Like, have you finished the seasons of Flash and Supergirl?
I have, yes.
Okay, so I mean the just everything that went on with Jean and his dad, and especially in that like last episode or 2.
Oh yeah,
like that stuff, and Alex, her arc like was real strong. I don't know. They're doing something right over there.
Oh, definitely, and it's become like a household event here, honestly, because I live with my dad and my 2 brothers, and our mom just passed away last December. So.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry, dude.
Thank you, I appreciate that, but she led a really good life and everything, but like sitting down with my dad and watching Supergirl, like fairly religiously all that stuff where Jean was taking care of his dad, it just it hit home for us. And like, yeah, there was not a dry eye in the room, and that's when you know you've got a show that like it's of quality, you know, where the characters can emote and the writing is on point and it makes you feel real things, you know.
I think it's amazing that you sit down with your family early. Is it you and your dad, or you, your dad, and your brother, sibling?
Yeah, we have. I have two little brothers, and they're brats.
Okay,
but, we love them.
so you guys sit down as a family around to watch these shows on a weekly basis?
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh my God, that's beautiful. Hey, how often does that happen in 2018 in the age of on demand watching?
It's got to be rare. I have no idea.
And B, just in 2018, like where it kind of feels like families aren't doing things together often anymore. That's amazing. Like that melts my heart hearing that you sit down with your family to watch what is essentially soap operas for geeks.
But yeah, they're into comic books too, because you know my dad and I are.
I'm waiting for. I have two young kids, and I'm waiting for my son's 6.5. I'm waiting for him. He's getting there. He's almost there where he's willing to sit down and watch TV with me every week, and I can't wait till we're watching the Batman or Batwoman TV show together or whatever.
Oh yeah. That's gonna be good.
Yeah. So let's touch on Batwoman real quick, and then we'll go back to you and your art. Okay. Batwoman, I think is going to be great because Berlanti hasn't had a fail yet. I think with TV at least, and and here's a wild thing that I'm throwing out there. I tweeted about it the other day. Kevin Smith, I'm assuming you're a fan of Kevin Smith if you're a fan of all this other crap.
I'm a fan of him being a fan. His movies, okay. But I would love to sit down with him and just talk about comic books. Yeah. I think he'd be such a cool guy to hang out with, you know?
Oh, yeah. I agree. Like I've emailed his people several times to try to sit down and talk with him about whatever. But I'm an uber fan of Kevin Smith, but I grew up, I think, in an age where like I discovered him early enough to appreciate like his good work and what I consider his good work. And then like, because of that, even the work he puts out today, like I can find the good in it. Like, and I really enjoy it. But anyway, he sat down on one of his podcasts recently and talked about a project that he can't talk about, but it's a big project. And people from Canada came down to talk to him about it. I'm throwing this out there. What if he's the showrunner for Batwoman?
Oh wow, that would certainly be interesting.
Now I think that they're probably not like. The only thing that stops me from thinking that is with something like Batwoman, who is a lesbian character. They're probably gonna and a woman, obviously. They're probably gonna at least have a woman showrunner, I think, behind it because that just makes sense in 2018. But you know, with like all these, like the Supergirl, especially Supergirl, they adapted so many Superman stories to work with her character that they're going to do the same thing with Batwoman. They're going to adapt Batman characters. So like,
oh yeah,
who better than Kevin Smith to adapt Batman storylines? Like the only one better would be Scott Snyder.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I definitely, now that you say it, like, I was like, oh yeah, shit, yeah. You know, Kevin Smith has like done a ton of comic books, and I've read a bunch of them. Like, my dad's a huge fan of his Green Hornet run, so I was just thinking about that. I was like, yeah, that would make a lot of sense. And even if he's not the showrunner, I definitely believe they would have him direct at least a few episodes. You know,
oh yeah.
Like if he's not the guiding vision behind the whole thing, he's at least going to direct several episodes.
He's the guy that you bring in for an episode or two tops in Flash and Supergirl, but for Batwoman, it's like, oh, let's bring it. See, but here's the thing: like, I also see a world where they make the Batwoman set very, very like the set that we're going to have be all about women and queer culture, which I think is great. Like they absolutely should. Like it should be a diverse set, no matter even if it's not Batwoman. Like you should have diversity everywhere. But in a world where like they kind of use shows now, like to kind of like, oh, this show is like, what is the show that did that recently, where it's a geeky show that it's all women. Maybe it was Jessica Jones season 2. It was all women directors, I think.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, so like you kind of have those baby steps of like, well, we have to use a show that has a woman lead to kind of spearhead it before it becomes normal, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in some ways it's been behind that sort of notion of diversity and representation has been behind a lot of the best blockbusters on the small screen and the big screen in ways that most people don't realize. Like for Mad Max Fury Road, director George Miller insisted that his wife actually edit the movie, and when she asked him why, he said because if a guy did it, it'd look like every other action movie.
Oh, that's genius.
Yeah, and then Point Break, which is like considered one of the quintessential, like macho surf bro movies of all time, was directed by Catherine Bigelow. And she's the fantastic director, and most people kind of just know her as James Cameron's wife.
Yeah,
and I'm like, nah, like she did the Hurt Locker and like so many movies that I absolutely adore. And so I think people in the toxic side of fan culture who don't get it, they don't realize they've probably been celebrating a lot of this work in the first place.
Yeah,
that it's completely done by people and people supporting them, and progressive minds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm all for Batwoman, and I think it's going to be great, and I can't wait to watch that alongside all the other CW shows.
Yeah, that one I'm super excited for. Just the diversity aspects of it aside, like it's finally introducing the Bat family into and it's, I feel like at least on because we are dealing with a multiverse, and I still can't believe they haven't collapsed that yet, but good on them for keeping it up. But on what is it, Earth 3848, the Supergirl's Earth, Batman exists. Like she's talked about, my cousins worked with people in masks, and it's whatever. So like Batman exists, and I have to assume Batwoman is going to probably come out of Earth 38 or whatever Supergirl's Earth is, because we know that the Batman mythos exists there. So. But I'm excited for it because what Supergirl, I think what's great about that is even though that Superman exists in that world, we've seen Superman in that world, they've taken Superman storylines and adapted it for Supergirl. So we're going to see some Batman storylines in
for sure.
Batwoman. And I don't know, it blows my mind that we don't have Batman. This is just one step closer. Like we're going to see within the next, it's 2018. So really Batwoman will start 2019. I say by 2021 is at the latest that we'll see Batman in a Arrowverse / Berlantiverse, whatever you want to call it, CW show. We'll see Batman appear, just like he won't have his own show, but he'll appear the way Superman appears in Supergirl.
Well, I sure hope so. Currently, Batman, his TV rights are owned by Fox. That's why Gotham is on Fox. But they're not allowed to show Batman because right now he's being used by Warner Brothers in the DCEU.
Okay, so, whoa. You just blew my mind here. So I knew that like Batman by character, a lot of these characters are off limits because of the movie universe. That's, I think, a known fact.
Right.
But Batman, the character as a TV show, is owned by Fox. So that means that he'll, like, technically the Batman character can't show up on Batwoman.
Yeah. Because if you go back, you look, the original TV show with Adam West and Burt Ward, that was produced by Fox Television all the way back then. And the movie that they came out with, the movie rights were snapped up by 20th Century Fox. Which is why the Adam West movies never included in any of the Batman bundles that you can buy at the store, because
Yeah.
it's still published by Fox. Like if you go and buy a Blu-ray, it'll say 20th Century Fox on it, whereas
So-
all the other Batman movies are Warner Brothers.
So technically, Disney is going to own some sort of version of Batman. It might not be. It might be the '66 Batman or some version of it. But technically, Disney's going to own some piece of Batman.
Yeah, the rights at this point are leaning more towards the possibility for Disney to stick Batman on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. before Batwoman.
Oh, but when do you think? Because obviously, like we're in a world now where within the next probably 5 to 10 years, like so the big thing for the 10-year anniversary of Marvel is Infinity War, right? Like, and bring all the heroes together to stop Thanos. So now that the Fox merger is going to happen, the next big thing is building up to 2018 was 10 years, so 2028 is going to be Avengers versus X-Men. You have to assume. How long? Okay. How long is it until it's Avengers versus Justice League? Even if Disney doesn't own WB or whoever by then.
See, here's the thing. I think a lot of what we consider to be the Avengers today is not going to be the Avengers in 10, 15 years, because I think Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth and Robert Downey Jr. are going to be done with the roles far before then.
Oh, yeah. Well,
wants to be doing this by the time he's 40. Having said that, I think we're definitely going to have like a second Avengers team. So conceivably by like 2030, I know that's like a long ways off, but I'd say in the next 20 years, it's probably going to happen.
Well, I would say within the next 10 years, 2028, the 20-year anniversary of the MCU, even if it's Captain America not played by Chris Evans, there's no way that you don't get Steve Rogers. There's no way you don't get Tony Stark again in the future. Like, we know as people, like as fans of this stuff and as adults, we know that these characters, or the actors at least, this is probably their last rodeo. Avengers 4 is going to be their last rodeo playing these characters.
Oh yeah.
But in 2028, by then, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be a new guy playing Steve Rogers. And
honestly,
I would hope it take longer than that, but there's a good possibility.
What I definitely hope happens, I hope that they find a way to write them out of the, like, Steve Rogers retires. So like there's an official in-canon reason for, Chris Evans to step away from the role while also not ceding it to anyone else, Mm-hmm. So then if they were to ever do like an Avengers Justice League, like I can imagine the Comic-Con footage already. Like you see Clark and Bruce, and then it gets really dark, and you hear familiar voices, and it's like Tony Stark, and then he says, "Cap, we need you," and then they just show like a clip of Chris Evans, and everybody just goes like absolutely wild, and he's back as Captain America,
Yeah. Well, and so I still, whether it's it will be an Avengers team, whether it's the characters we know today played by the actors we know today, or at least the characters we know today played by everyone else, or more than likely I think by 2028 they're still going to kind of, if there's going to Captain America that's Steve Rogers, it's going to be Chris Evans. Somehow they'll bring Chris Evans back within the next 10 years. Right. If they had to. 2028 I think we're going to get Avengers versus X-Men. And then, but like at some point, I just feel like, and it has to be when like Marvel is completely tapped, and I mean DC is probably already, like, they seemed like they're maybe already tapped, but when they're desperate enough to say let's do it, like did you ever read the Amalgam comic books?
Oh hell yeah,
yeah, like I have them behind me somewhere right now, and they got water damaged. I'm so mad. I have the trade paperbacks of them, and they got water damaged. And I've looked online, and you can only find them on eBay for like $100.
Oh, hold the phone. You can go on my. I don't mean to plug a website. Like, I'm not plugging a website, but there's mycomicshop.com has the Amalgam comics on there Like you can buy them in singles. I don't know about trades, but you can buy them in singles. Yeah, like I kid you not, they're like a few dollars for each issue.
Oh my god, I'm there.
Yeah.
What? Say that website one more time.
mycomicshop.com.
Not a sponsor of the show, but definitely getting all my money. They were some of my favorite comics to read when I got them. I read comics briefly, like for a couple years as a kid, and like mainly your mainstream, like Spider-Man, X-Men. I wasn't a DC kid, but that wasn't because of anything other than the fact that like the comic books, I don't think like drew my attention. Like they weren't bright like the Spider-Man and X-Men were, because I was more of a Batman the animated series fan than I was anything else when it came to TV. But it wasn't until like I was 21, 22 years old that I started reading like The Walking Dead and Marvel Civil War and whatnot. And I started reading a lot of comic books then, and that's when I read the Amalgam series and stuff. And then it wasn't until the New 52 and Scott Snyder that I started reading DC comics. And then I really kicked into gear the last like year and a half reading comic books for DC to review them and stuff. And but yeah, Amalgam, I like, that's like you could do that and fans would love it, but I think that's like the end point. Like when both studios are like, or when Disney owns everything, whatever happens first is when you get X-Men or Marvel versus DC, Avengers versus Justice League. But at that point, like that if Avengers versus X-Men is 2028, I don't think you get. Like, I think, at least me, I think I'm dead before you see Avengers versus Justice League.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, and it's funny because my friend Will and I, I'm dropping names left and right in your show. My friend Will and I, after Winter Soldier, we were tossing around the idea of like, okay, well, how would the X-Men enter the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Oh my god!
And we were talking about the fact that after Winter Soldier, since S.H.I.E.L.D. is gone, maybe they were hiding the existence of mutants.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. is gone. Mutants have started to surface. People are wondering what the hell. And Magneto is like this revolutionary. So we were making comparisons to the Brotherhood of Mutants as extremists, like a jihad. And then the mutants were like the normal, everyday American Muslim community. They were like anybody who would be targeted, like, that sort of minority. And yeah, we were definitely drawing those comparisons, and we wrote a whole screenplay.
Oh wow!
Like, by the time it was done, we the Marvel Cinematic Universe had like moved on and sort of like left us in the past. Yeah, but we adapted it to just sort of be its own thing. But it is like an X-Men fan's like absolute wish fulfillment. Like for like everybody I've ever handed it to and say, hey, you should read this. They're like, yeah, this is really good X-Men, And I'm like, oh man, I'd love to read. You
certainly need to send that to me so I can read it.
Oh, definitely.
But two things when it comes to the X-Men and Fox coming to Marvel now, because it's definitely happening. Like, and I guess there's still a possibility that like the FCC or somebody can kibosh it, but that seems unlikely at this point. I personally think that it's going to be a new, like a reboot of the X-Men franchise. I think everyone would want at least Hugh Jackman to come back as Wolverine and go off against Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, right? Like,
see, I was of the mind that Carl Urban should have been Wolverine in the MCU, which they can't do now though because he was in Thor Ragnarok. So at this point, like I'm open to anything. Like if he wants to come back, I'm down for that.
I think realistically, see, it's a weird position that you're in as Disney or Marvel Studios or whatever, because like, all right, like the right way to do this is to reboot it and bring the X-Men in that way. But like the cash grab you could get by having the X-Men from 2000 or what? Yeah, I think that was in the first movie. It was either 99 or 2000 when the first movie came out. To have Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman and all the original X-Men come back in some capacity would be such a cash grab, and you would make tons of dough doing it and whatnot. But it's a weird line that they have to dance for this, and I ultimately think they're going to lean towards reboot. And in that sense of the world, where they're going to reboot it, so I ran at Wizard World this past year, and at the Great Philadelphia Comic Con in Greater Oaks, we ran a 10-year Marvel MCU panel, and we talked about, and we were asked from the crowd like what we would do with the mutants and X-Men and bringing them over to the Marvel, and we kind of as a group conferred on like, you kind of do a reverse House of M with Scarlet Witch, and she's perfect. Instead of being the reason that there's no more mutants, she's the reason that there are mutants, and that's how you get all these people with extraordinary powers and whatnot. And I almost assume, because there are people like Scarlet Witch who they haven't called a Inhuman, but they haven't called a mutant either. She just has powers. So in that world where she's the only one I think you can use to like maybe explain what a mutant is at this point in the MCU world, at least.
Right. Well, I was kind of hoping that after a certain point, when Marvel gets onto their next phase, which obviously is probably coming pretty soon after the next Avengers movie, the Scarlet Witch would, in an attempt to fix everything that Thanos has done, maybe using the Reality Stone or whatever, she would maybe shatter the reality as we know it, or she would replace it with another Earth. Because I mean, obviously, there's other Earths out there in this multiverse theory. I mean, they're doing it on TV with the Berlantiverse, so to speak, the Arrowverse. So imagine all these characters that know nothing about this world so far find themselves in a reality where mutants have existed, and then it's carte blanche for things like the Fantastic Four, Johnny Blaze, Ghost Rider, and you could break all that down in an Avengers movie, you know. And I think you have to explain what mutants are if you do it like that, because people already know about the X-Men, you know. True. It'd be such an easy in.
There are a lot of, I think, avenues that they can go to do this, and personally, I want it to be however you incorporate Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, James Marsden. Yes. And like all those characters that we know, and even if you have to like intermingle some of the first class generation of X-Men, whatever you need to do to kind of get everyone from that the Fox universe in, like I'd be down for, like, it's because I can't, like, X-Men. Batman '89 was obviously huge for comic book movies, but I was 5 years old at that point.
Okay.
So the first superhero movie really to have an impression on me was X-Men. So, like, as exciting as Avengers was, Days of Future Past was way more exciting for me because it was the new generation of X-Men, James McAvoy and all that, and the old school with blending the two casts together from past and future. And that, like, it blew my mind, like, that they were doing that, because it was just that hit me in all the feels that I needed to have. But there's so much that they can do when it comes to this merger and whatnot. And that was another thing that we kind of pitched, was like having the multiverse collapse on itself, and that's how you bring them in. I don't know if it was at the panel or if it was in a roundtable discussion or something that I was part of, but we also talked about, like, imagine the snap, right? Like and this was before Infinity War came out. So I'm going to explain this in a world where Infinity War has already happened. But what we kind of envisioned was the snap happened. Maybe we get all the other garbage that happens. But the post-credits scene would have been, instead of what we got, like a New York City skyline. And instead of seeing the Avengers A Tower, we would have seen the Baxter Building with the Fantastic Four logo. and they cut the credits, and then it wouldn't be until presumably either Captain Marvel, maybe it would be explained there, but probably in Avengers 4, like, oh my God, Fantastic Four are here now because of the finger snap. So that was like something that we posed as well.
That's really interesting. I like that, actually. And speaking of iconic buildings like that, I just beat the new Spider-Man game.
Oh wow!
Like probably an hour ago. Well, the story mode at least. You know, there's so much other stuff to do. Swinging through the New York City, I found the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Oh wow!
I found Alias Investigations.
Nice.
There's so many little Easter eggs in there, and I'd love to see that definitely completely translate to the big screen with stuff like the Baxter Building and whatnot.
That Spider-Man game is the reason I want a PS4 because I have an Xbox One, and I'm like, you're kidding me. Like the reason I got the Xbox One is because like all the good games were on both platforms, and so I got the Xbox One. So like I'm so tempted to get a PS4 very soon so I can play that Spider-Man game. But my like Avengers 4 like kind of wish list doesn't necessarily include the Fox movie verse, because realistically like that merger is not going to be completed until when Spider-Man 2 is coming out. So the chances of us getting any kind of hint at Fantastic Four or the X-Men and Avengers 4 is pretty slim due to legality things.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I'm looking at it like, okay, here's what I want from Avengers. I want to see Phil Coulson at some point in Avengers 4. Now, mind you, I don't know. I haven't kept up with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I don't know where he's at in there. But I also want to see like the Defenders. Like, there's no reason that I don't see the Defenders, the Punisher, and whatnot. Like the Netflix Marvel verse. I want to see them represented. Even if it's an Easter egg, like you saw, like you said, like Alias Investigations, a picture of Matt Murdock being lost or something, you know?
Yeah.
That's my Avengers 4 wish list, is like just acknowledge everything in the MCU, including your TV shows. I think it's a mistake not to have Daredevil at the very least in Avengers 4. Like, that's a mistake to me.
Agree. That's one of the things I think is going to happen, actually. I think since Fury's gone... Oh, shit, sorry to anybody who has...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, sorry. I definitely think Carol Danvers is going to put together an Avengers team out of everybody that's left. And I'm almost certain that at least either Daredevil or Luke Cage is going to be on it. But I hope both of them and Iron Fist are on it. Jessica Jones... I don't know that she'd be down to do it, but I could easily see her participating in some fashion. If she's not, gone, like we don't know yet.
Yeah. I'm excited for Avengers 4 because it's while like I think everyone kind of knows the direction that's going at this point, as far as like obviously the heroes that are left are going to fix everything, and the heroes that are left are also the heroes that started it all. Some of them are going away, so I think there's like, we know the basic beats of what Avengers 4 is, but I'm still excited to see how it all comes together and ends. And it's going to be 11 years by the time Avengers 4 hits. It will be almost 11 years to the date that the MCU has existed. So it's going to be like a nice little bookend, a nice little, closing of the chapter or closing of the whole book and starting a new book or something like that. So, I'm already planning, my con scene, my con panel submissions and stuff, and like kind of planning what we're going to talk about, since con season starts right around, at least in Philly, it starts right around when Avengers 4 comes out. So, it's another reason to live, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we've been at it for probably around an hour, a little over an hour at this point. Before I let you go, let's actually talk about you and your art. What got you into art? Where's your origin point when it comes to you being an artist?
Definitely. Well, first of all, my mom was a very artistic person, and my dad was too. More so my mom. But my dad loved comic books, and that's sort of where his artistic, sensibility stemmed from. And that's kind of where mine stemmed from too. My mom taught me art as much as she could, and my dad taught me comic books, and it was just like this perfect nexus of genes and interests. And I have pictures. Well, I used to from when I was like a kid, 5 years old, drawing Cyclops and whatever. So like I've always been drawing constantly.
That's and again, I don't know. Is I think it was your pinned tweet the other day. I don't know if it still is the Shazam Captain Marvel. Is that still a pinned tweet, or was it ever?
I don't think so. I have a Keanu Reeves thing.
Okay. Oh, that's right. I don't know why I thought it was pinned. Maybe it's because I just looked at it a lot. But I guess you have a DeviantArt. What's your DeviantArt page?
Nite Owl 94.
So definitely go there. You can see the Captain Marvel piece and Shazam piece that we've talked about several times tonight. I think it's that's wonderful. The whole gallery is wonderful that you have up there. But I don't know. I don't know if it's because of the unity that Shazam piece represents. That's one that I need to talk to you about getting a print of, because I want to hang once my studio's done. I want to have that hanging. And I'm not a big Shazam fan. I'm not a big Captain Marvel fan, but that united, that unity that picture represents. I don't know. I love it. I love the meaning that picture represents. And I definitely want to print hanging up in my studio once I have it complete. But I don't know how to explain it. It's very comic book friendly, at least like that piece and some of the other comic book pieces that you did is very. I don't know why you're not have you drawn comic books, your own creator own stuff?
I'm more of a writer. See, I'm a perfectionist. And it takes me a long time to do some of this stuff. Okay. So doing panel work is always very overwhelming to me. Not that I haven't tried, but I would love to do covers, variant covers even.
Oh, okay.
I'd love to do that. But yeah, as far as that picture, one of the things that always struck me was I love it when superheroes are shown doing normal crap,
Yeah,
just like eating, going to McDonald's, like that image from Iron Man 2 where he's just sitting eating donuts is iconic, So like every time that you see Spider-Man just sitting around eating a bagel or drinking a cup of coffee, it gives them, humanizes them. And I thought, what's more humorous than sitting down and telling stories about people on Twitter? I was like, that's amazing. So if Captain Marvel and Shazam sat down to break bread, I can definitely imagine them, laughing about how crazy people get on the internet. It's like, did you hear this one guy say, your name shouldn't be Captain Marvel? They just laugh, like, what? It's like, what even?
And it's funny because, as you said, you love superheroes doing everyday things. The first one that popped in my head is Spider-Man. He's the guy that you think of, or the kid or whatever that is he's just your everyday person. I don't think there's another hero that represents that more.
No, there really isn't. Because even in Homecoming, he's like, oh, hey, Happy, this lady, she gave me a sandwich. It was really good, just like around the neighborhood, he knows the guy at the bodega. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. That is, I think, low key, I guess, my favorite thing about seeing those pictures, because I think that's part of that picture you drew is that what drew me to it is it's just them not being heroes, sitting around talking, and I'm a Kevin Smith fan, so I love people sitting around talking. That's whether it's Kevin Smith himself or the characters in his movies, that's all Clerks is people sitting around talking. And I have the reason I do a show where it involves me sitting around to talk about the things I like to talk about is because of Kevin Smith. And so that's probably a low key favorite thing of mine, and probably what draws me to that picture you drew, and made me want to sit down and talk with you, because you get fandom. I think you are on the right side of history when it comes to fandom.
Thank you.
And I just knew that we would have a good conversation about comic book stuff. And normally we would have dived deeper, I think, into your art, but we went on a lot of good tangents about comic books and fandom and stuff.
Yeah,
so before I let you go, let people know where they can find you on the internet, where they can look you up to hire you for artwork and stuff.
Okay. On Twitter, I am Joe the Nite Owl, Nite. And on Facebook, it's Joseph Sheldahl. DeviantArt, Nite Owl 94. I don't know. Still working on a brand to sort of bring everything together, but those are my handles so far.
Yeah, and we'll have links in the show notes and whatnot about that. And take a look at the DeviantArt so you can get a good look at Joe's gallery of and portfolio of work. It's top notch. I really enjoy it. Like I said it on Twitter. Like that picture. Like I have a new podcast project that I'm working on that I'm definitely going to come to you and cause I've never had an artist draw my artwork for a podcast album art before, but I'm finally doing something that's like, I need custom art. So like that picture sold me. The Shazam Captain Marvel picture sold me. So I'll be in touch about that as well. And check it out, guys. Like you will not be disappointed. And yeah, that's all I got. Like, thank you, Joe, for doing this. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. And, I'd be happy to come back on and, talk. Like, I love doing this stuff. So,
yeah, we will definitely have you back on to talk about whatever the night, like at least, when the Avengers 4 comes out, we'll have to have you back on and talk what happened. And you need to send me that screenplay you wrote about the Avengers and X-Men coming together or battling it out or however you brought them in. I need to read that.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Big thanks to Joe for being on this episode of Everything is Awesome. I really enjoyed this conversation. This is the power of the internet at its finest. Social media, which can be a toxic place, linked us together because someone that I follow on Twitter liked a neat little piece of artwork that Joe made that featured the Captain Marvel of the Marvel Universe and the Captain Marvel of the DC Universe just being buddies and sitting around and not understanding why fandoms have to fight. And we shouldn't be fighting as fandoms. So thank you to Joe for coming on and talking about his art and just having a great conversation with me. I always love having conversations that are very pop culture oriented, and this was very much that. As I said at the top of the show, please check out the 2019 Everything is Awesome HEADstrong Comedy Festival. That's right. 4 venues, Tattooed Mom, Thirsty Dice, South Street Cinema, and Milk Boy on South Street. 3 of those 4 venues are on South Street in Philadelphia, PA. Thirsty Dice is on 17th and Fairmont. We have 24 podcasts getting together and over 20 comedians and improvisers just sharing their craft to help raise money for the HEADstrong Foundation. This organization does a lot of great work. They offer emotional support, they offer financial support, and residential support for families who are affected by cancer. They work with the University of Pennsylvania. So, no matter where you're from, there's a good chance that you might come to UPenn to get treatment because they are in a teaching school and they offer some unique treatments that other places cannot offer. And if you qualify and you and your family have to come out to the UPenn for treatment, organizations like HEADstrong assist those families in being making sure that they can get the support that they need. So please come out and support the festival by showing up and enjoying a show and maybe making a donation. If you can't make it to the city of Philadelphia on January 27th, you can also go to bit.ly/HeadstrongFest. That's bit.ly/HeadstrongFest, where you can donate today. We're at 45% of our goal right now. I would love to hit 50% by the 16th. I would love to hit 100% before January 27th, because that means we're in an awesome position to give even more to the HEADstrong Foundation. Speaking of that comedy festival, Everything is Awesome is going to be performing live there. I don't know what gave it away. Was it the fact that we're in the title of the whole festival? I don't know. But we will be performing at 4 p.m. on South Street at Tattooed Moms as part of the HEADstrong Comedy Festival, the Everything is Awesome HEADstrong Comedy Festival. It's going to be a great show from 4 to 5 p.m. We have Abby Rosenquist is going to be one of our guests for the show. We're booking our second or other guest right now. Mike will be there to co-host. We're going to have some fun times. We're going to play some games. We're going to chat. We're going to have fun. A lot of great acts at Tattooed Mom. That is a fine place to come and see some comedians and some podcasts. You can also walk over to South Street Cinema, or you can walk over to Milk Boy South Street to catch some other shows. You can also take an Uber or a Lyft or your own car down to Thirsty Dice on 17th and Fairmont and check some actual role-playing games at their finest, like Party of One, Pot of Love, Heart Points Pod, Refugees of Esmeralda, A Quest for Magic and Steel, and my buddy Brian Durkin doing Full Belly Laughs for the first time at Thirsty Dice. So again, check out more information about the festival at festival.awesomepodcast.com. You can check out the donation page, the fundraising page at bit.ly/headstrongfest. It would mean a lot if you could come out and support all these wonderful artists that are donating their time and sharing their craft to help support the Headstrong Foundation. But if you can't come out and make it and donate there, you can also donate online at bit.ly/headstrongfest. We like to end Everything is Awesome with a call to action. Super friends, there are a lot of terrible things happening right now. It can feel like you can't do anything to help, but you can. It takes people like us to make a difference. One of the easiest and most effective ways to action is to call your representatives about issues that are important to you. We need to end this government shutdown. It has passed through the House to end as of the 3rd of January, but even though the House passed legislation to reopen the government on January 3rd, Mitch McConnell has refused to schedule a vote in the Senate and has instead moved on to other legislative agenda items. The Senate's first priority should be ending the government shutdown, and no other legislative business should occur before the government is reopened. Having this shutdown over a $5 billion request for a wall, both those things are ludicrous. There's been a fair counter from the Democrats offering $1.3 billion, which is a lot of money, to fund border fencing. Having a wall is going to simply make attempting crossing the border more deadly. And it's just a ludicrous thing to ask for amongst all the other things that this administration has asked for. This might be the most ludicrous. And without passing this spending bill, federal agencies have shut down. So that means there are employees, there are people who depend on paychecks working right now and not getting paid. That means that there are people who are not even working because they're not getting paid. And that's affecting the safety of flights. There is a group of people who, after the individual flight businesses do their inspections, there's a federal agency that checks for their safety checks, that often picks up things that are missed from U.S. Airways or from Air Canada or whoever you're flying. And people are literally taking their life into their own hand, going onto planes and flying during this shutdown. So please, please, please reach out to your representatives to help end this shutdown. When I call my reps, I use a site called 5calls.org. That's the number 5calls.org. There, you'll find issue summaries for issues that are important to you, contact information for your representatives, and a script to read while you're on the phone to make sure your message gets across. Calling is quick, easy, and is one of the most effective ways to have your voice heard. Thank you to all of our supporters on patreon.com/thatentertains. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to bring this episode to you. If you want to support us in a non-monetary way, word-of-mouth recommendations and 5-star rating reviews on iTunes are the best way to spread the good word of awesome. You can find us on Facebook.com and Twitter at RealAwesomePod or at Awesome Podcast on Instagram. And we're available on AwesomePodcast.com and ThatEntertains.com/network. Get news about everything is awesome from our website, social media accounts, and also on my personal Twitter at ThatNerdyKev. If you're interested in ad rates, live appearances, help with your podcast, or have a question or comment, email us at awesome@crudeHumorstudios.com. Everything is Awesome is a production of That's Entertainment Podcast Network in association with Crude Humor Studios. Crude Humor Studios is a Philadelphia-based production company specializing in audio, video, and live performances. You can find more info at crudehumorstudios.com. Thanks for listening, super friends. We've been awesome.
That's Entertainment Podcast Network. Entertainment and culture. Artist-owned, fan-supported.